Welcome to another edition of Choreograph Critics Wrestling Podcast. Today we will be recapping Money in the Bank and the trajectory of WWE.
And welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John. Joining me as always is Joel.
Hello.
How you doing? It's been
I'm
maybe a month here since our last show.
Geez. Yeah, you put it that way. It's a long time no see. How you doing? You know, I'm doing well. I'm pleased with a lot of the reinvigoration of WWE narrative. And let's get into it. Money in the Bank. It was good. I mean, it was average. It was good. What would you give it as a grade for like a total show? We can
As
dig
a
into
whole,
the
yeah.
details.
Yeah, so as a whole, I'd say probably I'll go with B minus. I,
B minus. Okay.
yeah, I wanted
Okay.
to go a little bit higher, but it wasn't that exciting of a show. I mean, the matches were fine. We'll talk about Becky versus Lycaria at some point, but that was probably one of the better
The best
matches.
match.
Yeah, if not the best. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'd say probably about a B minus. How about you?
I'm gonna give it a C plus. As far as I'm willing to go to B minus, but based on the merit and my historical reference of ladder matches, that men's ladder match was very interesting. I'll say that. We had a lot of visible botches, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but the two ladder matches in particular, because that's why we tune in to Money in the Bank, correct? You want to see one of those highlight reels, you want to see spots galore, you want to see a pace that keeps you interested and invested. And I saw a lot of sloppy work. I saw a lot of one-on-one spots not being simultaneously connected to other spots. And what I mean by that, John, my pet peeve for ladder matches, and when you have talent laid outside of the squared circle,
Mm.
they've been taken out. They're on the apron. They're on by the commentators table. They're on the ground. They're not in the ring. And you have two wrestlers go into the ring, execute a spot, and that's the big highlight. I don't like that. I'll tell you why I don't like that. I think ladder matches should be fast paced, a frenzied spot fest, but well executed. And I don't think having these one on one spots makes the match worth watching. I can see spots in a 1v1 all day on weekly shows, NXT, any singles match. I can see these spots. So in a ladder match, when there's 6+ people, I want to see simultaneous action. That is where it was lacking in Money in the Bank. Simultaneous spots were not present. They had to energize each spot as if it was pre-programmed and not believable in the flow and pace of a ladder match.
Yeah, I totally see where you're coming from with that. It almost seemed like half the match was a construction site massacre. Like just you see all the
Elaborate on
debris.
that.
I just meant like debris and like ladders falling down, and it just looks like something bad happened, and trying to put up a structure or something. Uh, but no,
Right.
I I agree with you. They're definitely in the men's match. It felt more like that to me than the women's. Um, and I thought it was interesting. So the way they ordered these matches, excuse me. Typically it seemed like lately over the past like 4 or 5 years they'd kind of been bookending the show with ladder matches, and this year they didn't do it that way. They started with the women's match, and then the men's match was second to last. So that gave me kind of like a a little bit of a glimmering hope that maybe there was going to be a cash in same night, which doesn't happen really anymore unless the like men's match opens the show. I think that's how it went with Drew and whoever Drew cashed in on and failed.
So it has happened.
Yeah, it happened last year. I don't know why I put it like it never it hasn't been happening, but the bookend thing rather, like that's how it's been happening. It's just like I think last year the women's match actually main evented, so it was just opposite. Um but
I agree with you with the women's match being better than the men's match, because they had multiple spots. It wasn't until the later half of the men's ladder match where the pace picked up. So, but please continue. I actually agree with you wholeheartedly, that there wasn't any surprise and the pacing of the men's was lacking in comparison to the women's.
yeah, for sure. One thing to note with the women's match too, well, we might as well just start deep diving that unless you wanted to touch on something else quick.
Mm,
Um
go ahead.
so basically this match ended with sorry, I'm jumping ahead. It ended with Naomi being the one cashing out, or getting the contract and the potential to cash it in the future. Yeah, proceed with caution. That's been her tagline. Um, Something that was pretty impressive with this. So, one of the competitors, Stephanie Vaquer, had competed earlier in the day as well on the NXT Worlds Collide show. She tagged with Lola Vice from NXT to face two women from AAA that their names are escaping me right now. Um,
Double
and
duty, triple duty.
yeah, and she wasn't the only one, unless you are non Michael Cole commentators, then um, you know that Chad and Americano aren't the same person, so he did not pull double duty. Um,
That's right. Yeah, well,
yeah.
buffoonery.
So yeah, Chad Gable. Then, since I just brought him up, he was in the main event of the Worlds Collide show on YouTube, and then he went on to, as El Grande Americano, compete in the men's Money in the Bank match. And frankly, he had a killer weekend. I mean,
What a worker.
he didn't do like the like you said about the men's match, like it was lacking, and there's a lot of times people are just laying down, so like he had more rest time for that kind of thing. But I mean, it's still a second match, and Vikingo beat the crap out of him, and like
Yeah,
he him to just come back and then do a ladder match after his like 30-40 minute match with Vikingo is just insane. But anyways, so yeah, Naomi came out on top. Did you want to talk about any specific spots in their match, or how you feel about Naomi in general? Or
so I'd like to kind of pick your brain here. Who did you have your money on going in? That's always interesting, right? How it turns out versus your expectation. And I honestly thought Valkyr was going to be the forerunner.
okay,
Um, and some people thought that Naomi winning was a little bit jarring, but it makes sense with the heel turn. If she was a face, there's no way she would have secured this.
right,
But she has a good pivot into the Belair Cargill feud, right? And it's, at least to my knowledge, that we are going to get Belair Cargill sometime, maybe SummerSlam. But to have Naomi lurking as a heel, proceed with caution. She's so dangerous. She's so unpredictable. I found it intriguing, and I didn't think that it hampered the development of any of the recent draft picks for WWE. Um, you know, Roxanne Perez, and these NXT women, they are so spectacular, huh, John? They are ushering in a new level of execution. You see a lot of finishers, you see a lot of spots you don't see on the main brand with these women. And I feel like we've been used to with Becky Lynch, Trish Stratus, Charlotte Flair, a very even toed competitor when it comes to the face of the women's division. And what I mean by that is they're very safe. Your expectations are safe. But with some of the new draft picks, some of the new people who have migrated from NXT to the main brand, they're doing things I haven't seen. They're doing technical spots that you usually see are reserved for the men's competitors. And again, this is not to detract from the wonderful array of talent both brands have. I mean, Io Sky, I have always loved her as a singles competitor. When she was doing Damage Control Tag Team, I thought that was a waste of her talent. There's a, a plethora of women out there who can captivate an audience, but these new faces, they are doing things at a pace and a level that I think elevates the women's card. I know you're a big fan of Roxanne Perez. Who did you think was going to take the contract from Money in the Bank?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of automatically ruled out the three new women in Perez, Vecker, and Julia. Um, just because, like, I didn't think they really wanted to make one of those three look better than the other two right now. So I think that, yeah, I thought right away, like, okay, these three aren't. So then we're left with Naomi, Alexa Bliss, and Rhea Ripley as potential winners. And we've talked before, like, Rhea Ripley doesn't really need to be at the top of the card really anymore. She's just kind of she's just always going to be over and good at what she's doing. She doesn't need like a briefcase or similar type of prop to like help her character. Um, Alexa to me hadn't been back long enough for it to really make sense unless like, but they did, never mind, because they had Charlotte Flair win the Royal Rumble, her first breath back in the company, so I don't know if I
Yeah.
care about that. But that was my mentality anyway. It was just she hasn't been back that long. So then that's
Lots of fans think we are. WWE is doing Alexa Bliss dirty. They aren't giving her any bones. They're not letting her really shine. And to your point about Rhea Ripley, yeah, she doesn't need a title. Do you think though that her momentum has really slowed?
um no, not really. I mean, it's slowed in the point of like I don't know what she's doing now. Well, yeah, so I guess yeah, it's it's slowed a bit. But I I'd hope it's just like a week or two thing, like they're just kind of getting out of these tournament type of scenarios, I guess, cuz they just did like qualifiers to get her in the Money in the Bank, and then now we're getting into King and Queen in the Ring right away.
Right.
So like they haven't, with some of these wrestlers, like they just haven't really shown that they're gonna be in a story right now outside of like these tournament kind of environments. And she kind of falls into that now that I'm talking about it. Um, but I don't think it's like like creatively she's been slowed, but I don't think like her momentum is slowed. You know what I mean? Like she just
Sure.
has to show up on camera and everyone's like, ah, it's Ripley, you know. Um,
That's right. She
so
could slingshot to the top of the card anytime. So like that momentum hasn't slowed, but her appeal as the face may have slowed.
maybe, yeah. Um, so yeah, it was like I was at Naomi and Bliss, and then I said Bliss wasn't around long enough, so I kind of pseudo thought Naomi would win this outside of I, you know, I
Hmm.
didn't really believe it, you know. Like I was just like, I see how I got to this conclusion, but I don't know if that's how it's gonna go. But then it did.
Sure.
So um yeah, I like her with it. Her character I think is going to be more interesting. She this week on SmackDown like made it almost certain that she was gonna be cashing in on Tiffany instead of like keeping the mystique of like which one going to blah blah blah. So it's kind of inevitable, and she laid out to Tiffany on Friday that like she was just gonna kind of be a lingering presence for anything she does, and they actually teased her cashing in already last night because um, there was this exchange between Naomi and Tiffany, and then once Naomi left the ring, Nia Jax came out from out of nowhere and started beating up on Tiffany. So then you see like Naomi like she's got like her smile now or like evil like thing going.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. Do it again. That was perfect.
no, um, but she looked like she was gonna cash in, and then Nia Jax was like, "No, she's mine." Like kept like Naomi out of the ring from cashing in. So uh, that happens later in the show on Friday. So we'll probably get back to that because there was it was interesting because Nia Jax came out. This was like after she had a qualifying match too, so she's a little bit beaten up, but not beaten up enough to, not handle Tiffany from sneak
Well,
attack.
and John, you're right. You're totally right. The weekly shows to follow, Money in the Bank, superb. Excellent stuff. I would argue that Raw was more interesting than both Money in the Bank Saturday night's main event.
Oh yeah,
But without getting too distracted, yeah, I'm pleased. I'm pleased with the women's division right now. I don't have any complaints. I personally would have liked to see an NXT star come up because they played that dynamic of, oh, the veterans versus the newbies. Let's have the veterans square off after they throw the newbies out. That's how the match started. And thereafter, I, yeah, it's appropriate. It's appropriate to have Naomi be that dangerous dangerous heel to approach any face, and to have that level of unpredictability. I think that's to her benefit. So I actually think it's kind of wrong for her to step out and immediately single out somebody because that kind of demystifies some of her mystique.
yeah, it does. She kind of got into why I can't remember the specifics, but there's something about just how things had gone with Tiffany's or who was it? I think Tiffany helped Nia one time in a match that Naomi had with Nia Jax when Nia was still champion. I think it was they tied it to something like that. But yeah, I mean it would be a lot more interesting if like she was just randomly on Raw and then you know didn't cash in or it eventually does. But I don't want them to do the Tiffy 20, I'll call it. The 20 fake
Okay.
cash-ins. Um the Tiffy 20.
Yeah, for real. Oh, she's cashing in. She's finally breaking loose. Nope.
Yeah, it was too much of that. Um so yeah, I'm good with Naomi winning it. For a match grade, I'd probably give it like a B minus, I guess. That's what I give the show, and I think this kind of set the tone for most everything. So B minus.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair. I'll give it a B minus, leaning towards a B, but honestly, I'm gonna save that for Lyra and Becky Lynch.
Sure.
And then I would say that the women's, just to get it out there, the women's match and Lyra with Becky were my two top matches.
Me
And
too.
that's why I kind of, at the end of the day, had a C plus because the other matches didn't do it for me. There was, and we'll get into it, there was a lot lacking in the technicality and the pacing. But so after the women's match, we get into the next match. Um, I
Yeah,
will say too, that with so are they going to have a draft? Is this something that is up in the air? Do you have anything on that?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
I hate the draft at this point, but we can get into that some other time.
Okay. Gotcha.
I
Okay.
I don't know.
So
So what do you think there will be? Like it would just be speculative. Like I don't
I,
know anything.
the only reason I ask is I feel like the draft is only interesting if it's after the Money in the Bank contract winners are officially revealed and you have that potential.
Okay.
But I also was telling you earlier through text that I feel like with all the trades and crossover, the draft is completely unnecessary. If they do have one, I want to see LA Knight go to Raw.
Gotcha. Yeah,
That would be good.
that's kind of what I was getting at when I said I hate the draft. It's like because it doesn't matter. Like
It doesn't.
it's like the
No.
popular vote. Or, no, I'm just kidding. Um,
Right. It's the popular vote. Yes. The Electoral College. Um
so
yeah,
yeah,
so
after the women's match, we got Dominic versus Triple A's Octagon Junior. We like our shapes in lucha libre. Um, no, I did look into Octagon a little bit because the way that this match came to be was Dominic was in attendance at Worlds Collide and was
that's right.
talking smack basically, and then he's just like, "Oh, you think you're so good? I'll see you at Money in the Bank for the Intercontinental title." And everyone's like, "What?" Um, but Octagon Junior, his father, he tagged with Pentagon Senior, who is Penta that we know is technically Pentagon Junior. I've heard him called Pentagon Junior years ago, but it kind of fell off like Rey Mysterio. Um,
Oh, sure.
but so yeah, if you take a look at Octagon Junior's gear, he's got like a similar like the thing the what do you call it that
The
Penta
shuriken.
has? Is that what it's called?
I would call it a shuriken. It looks like a throwing star of some sort.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just like an eight-sided one that Octagon's wearing, essentially. Um, he was okay. I mean, what I didn't understand was this match went pretty quick and made Dominic look pretty dominant for the most part. And
Very strong.
yeah, so like I didn't know why it went like that because they were making all this hype about having these all stars that have been wrestling in Mexico for years, and we all kind of know Dominic as closer to a novice than that. Um, but he didn't really have to cheat in this.
No.
I don't really have any specific exchanges that were like notable. I mean, Octagon had like this springboard moonsault at one point, but um, otherwise it wasn't anything we haven't seen. It was just kind of a standard, like it could have been on like Raw, kind of mid card title defense, but
Yeah, and even then, very unremarkable stuff we haven't like. Come on, we got Ray Phoenix, we have Axiom, we have Dragon Lee, we have Penta, we have so many spot monsters, right? We have these guys who have honed in and calibrating those well-paced spots, and to see Dominic domineer that match, I I didn't find it very entertaining. I don't see Dominic as a strong champion. I don't see him as a strong competitor. I know that he is very capable of drawing heat, but is it niche? Is it something that will can he outgrow this? Is he malleable? Is he adaptable? Is Dominic interesting outside of his ability to draw heat?
Yeah.
And I haven't settled that because when I watch his matches, I never go, what a show, what a clinic. I've never used in my life watching Dominic Mysterio perform the words, he just put on a clinic.
No.
I've used that with Carmelo Hayes. I've used that with Andrade, and I will tell you, Andrade was full of botches in the men's ladder match. So, like, there's that gap, right? The technicality and the execution of someone like Adrande, very appealing, but then the ability to draw heat and the lack of technical expertise in Dominic is interesting because WWE seems obsessed with pushing him as one of the biggest outside of Logan Paul. He's the biggest heel. He really is. And arguably, he's bigger than Logan Paul. If you actually record the average heat he draws per week.
Yeah, definitely. Like if you were to measure the decibels of booze, probably.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
audible, quantifiable. Yeah, he is. Dominic Mysterio draws more heat. And um is that a legacy thing? Like if he didn't have Mysterio attached to his name, John, do you think he'd be um more or less interesting? Like what makes Dominic so average? He seems so helplessly average to me when I watch him in the ring, but yet people eat that crap up. People really love to hate him.
yeah, and the like dynamic he has with Liv and before Liv Rhea and now maybe Roxanne,
Oh yeah, sure.
like that gives some heat for sure because some people are just like, this freaking guy gets all these beautiful women, like
He's
what
a
the
young punk.
yeah, he doesn't even wash his hair or he's got too much conditioner or
He's a
whichever
greaser.
end he is. But so it just kind of put a bow on this match. I'd probably just give it a C minus, I guess. Like it wasn't a bad
Yeah.
match, but it was a below average title match, I'd say.
Yeah, I would give it a C, staunchly average. Nothing remarkable, nothing that I would go and plug a highlight reel from. So,
No.
yeah, stay golden, Dommy boy, because he's a greaser through and through. And with the emphasis now and him becoming the leader and him becoming the tribal chief of that little Judgment Day faction, that's where they're going, right? They want him to be this domineering force, Dirty Dominic Mysterio. One day, maybe, will actually grow a real mustache and be the main heel of whatever brand he resides on. But as of today, he is uninspired, very average in the ring, and his promos leave much desire from me as a long term wrestling fan. I never see him cut a promo where I go, God, that was superb. I really bought into the authentic Dominic Mysterio. No, I always think he's like this weird caricature. You
Yeah.
know? Is that wrong though? Like, does heel work have to be authentic to be believable? Because sometimes heel work is just heel work. And if you can draw heat being ridiculous, they'll run with it. Dominic is that to me. Ridiculous caricature that people love to hate.
Yeah, and it was like it's been hard for him to actually spit up a promo with how much he was booed. I mean, it's like died off a little bit, but you get like three words, if that, in, and then the crowd start booing and you start yelling Spanish
Yeah,
obscenities at him or whatever.
that's
Um,
right.
so that's just how it always went, and then like Rhea or Liv would be like, "Let him talk, guys." But yeah, I mean, it works for what they need. It was more interesting to me like when he had freshly like split from his dad and like they made that kind of into a angle of the deadbeat dad Rey Mysterio and that's why he's part of this Judgment Day group, and he needs to spend hard time and
Yeah,
whatever.
right.
Um, it's gone a far away from that, and like every once in a while they'll get in a deadbeat dad Ray thing, but like it's not often, and frankly, I mean, it shouldn't be a thing right now either. It's just like they haven't found like the right thing to really get people interested that isn't that, I guess. Um so yeah, I don't know. I kind of hope they just blow up the Judgment Day at some point here.
It's due. It feels like a juvenile school detention group.
Yeah. I mean, if they're going to have
Yeah,
like a bloodline forever, like it seems
sure.
like I don't think they need two of those. Like do you need NWO and um I don't know, something else that could have been NWO, like the Shield? Like do we need both same time? I don't know. Um
You know, it lingers in my mind, John, about Dom. The one thing you can say that's very credible about his character is he rises against adversity. He has rose against his father's legacy. He has climbed the ladder of Judgment Day. He has gotten over a domineering female romantic relationship. He is my hero. He's- he rises to the occasion. No, I totally feel you. If the fate of the Judgment Day is to ultimately catapult Dominic Mysterio into the forefront of top of the card, so be it. But end it after that, because I feel like the conclusion of Dominic Mysterio is equally the conclusion of Judgment Day.
yeah, it has to be. If it's not, then like I don't see what they are without him at this point, because like Finn can just do whatever. JD kind of needs a group. Um I don't know. Like
He needs to bump.
yeah, that's his only purpose, it seems like. Um so after Dom dominated Octagon, um we got the Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria match, which both of us, I think we both stated now we really enjoyed. Um, this this feud's been interesting. I didn't like how it started necessarily, because they did the thing of, oh, Bailey's gonna team with Lyra and fight for the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and then Bailey gets mysteriously taken out, and then last minute Becky Lynch fills in for her, and everyone's like, "Yeah, she's back," because she's gone for, was she gone a year?
It felt like it.
It
I would
was,
say longer than 6 months.
yeah, she was gone for quite a while. So she came back, team with Lyra, they win the titles as baby faces, and then a literal day later, they end up losing the titles back to Liv and Raquel, and had Becky just completely turn on Lyra at that point, which it just felt super rushed at the time. Um, fast forward now 3-4 months, or sorry, not even 3 months, but uh, they've had a series of matches over Lyra's Intercontinental title. Um, basically,
That's right.
at this point in time, Becky had lost twice, I believe, already to Lyra. But she, did the whole Becky spiel of how like she was screwed, and um, like,
They have history, of
yeah,
course. They have history.
they do, and part of that goes back to NXT a couple of years ago. That's who Lyra won the NXT title off of, was Becky Lynch. So yeah, they've had some history. They're the same part of the UK. Um, but yeah, Lyra ultimately kind of just doesn't. What was I gonna say? She doesn't do it for me promo wise. Um,
No, never, never.
she's really good in the ring, and Becky's
Mhm.
carried this whole feud they've had going on. But I have been impressed with Lyra's in ring action, and she had a pretty good title run, but they had that now come to an end with her losing to Becky Lynch here. Was there like I don't know? Did you have any spots with this match or?
Yeah, I'm always a fan of a well executed reversal combination pin.
Okay,
Um,
yeah,
if you can get that rolling and it looks good on camera, it's fun. It definitely has a place in a real good feud. Um, with that being said, totally with you. With Valkyria being very unbelievable on the mic, and what I mean by that is like there is a or they call it the it factor, right? And the suggestion that somebody has to have the it factor is just as important as your aura on the mic. So Lyra Valkyria has a wonderful in-ring it factor. She can execute the pace of the match. She's a good worker. But then when it comes to executing a promo, there's something in her facial tenacity that does not translate well on screen. And it's as if she doesn't believe the promo she's giving and she's more interested in proving herself through the execution of spot and pacing than she is in becoming a total package of a diva. And I don't mean diva as a derogatory name for a women's WWE wrestler. I mean diva as in the complete package of a Trish Stratus, someone who's confident in the execution of their spots and someone who's confident and believable in the delivery of a promo. So I'm with you, John, 100% that Lyra, Kyria, big time. And that's why we have big time Becky Lynch trying to put Lyra over and give her the confidence and stepping into a role where she has spots and well executed promos. She can work her ass off all day. And at the end of the day, if you put a title on her, she also has to talk the talk and walk the walk. So I think everything you said is justified. And I want to see Lyra Valkyria develop full blown diva, one who is confident in everything she says on the mic.
yeah, definitely. And I think she can get there. I mean, I don't think she's like a lost cause for that by any means. And usually, when you are
Sure.
big time in ring talent, like you're never truly a lost cause until I don't know, like just the utter depths of AEW, I guess. Then you're a lost cause. But there, yeah, I agree with the back and forth exchanges they had. I think they had like this one spot where Lyra turned like she calls it the manhandle slam, Becky. She turned that into
Yeah.
like a pinfall combination, and like that was similar to how she won her match at Backlash against Becky too. But it didn't work this time, and I do like when if they go back to the well with some of these moves and it doesn't work. Like I kind of like that, except for when it comes to doing 20 finishing moves to finish a match, which they did not do here. I'm not saying that. Just I don't know.
And they could have.
They definitely could
They
have.
could
Yeah.
have. But that was the beauty of the pace. So, one thing you could see with here's my evidence. Have you ever watched Lyra Valkyria come out and she's doing the woo woo
Hmm.
and she's like looking into the crowd where you can read her emotion and I swear to God there are some days fear in her eyes going if I don't get them engaged I'm gonna get and I don't want to see that because what tells me is gimmick.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a fun entrance and like it's kind of stingy almost as the crow. Um, but yeah, so Becky ends up overcoming Lyra finally in this one, and her
Shocker?
stipulation. What?
Shocker to you?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I kind of thought Lyra has had it for quite a not too long, but like she had it longer than Chelsea Green had the U.S. title, and those are like they've been around the same amount of time. So I kind of thought it was time to shake it up a little bit. However, to me, it seems like they're gonna go with Becky and Bailey again, and you know that feels played out to me, and I don't think that needs a mid card title. Um, but yeah, did you? So I assume then you had Lyra coming out before this happened, or
Yeah, I mean, I see her as a dominant wrestler, and I think like she's really interesting as a Rhea Ripley, but not as provocative because Rhea Ripley is you expect her to win. You expect her to dominate. Lyra Valkyria kind of feels like a Gunther in some strange way.
hmm,
Not as confident, but in the ring, she feels like you put her in there. She's a good worker and she's going to come out on top of her technical expertise. And so for them to pivot back to Becky Lynch at first felt like a creative travesty to me. But then I realized, oh, they want this full heel. They want to have Becky really dig into this heel turn, and they want her to put the confidence in Lyra Valkyria going forward. So I actually disagree with you. I don't think Bailey is the main pivot here. I think this is totally to build confidence in Lyra Valkyria, a competitor and as a personality, because we know what she can do in the ring, but can she overcome the beast that is the man Becky? Because Becky Lynch is she commandeers, she controls, she's a maestro. She really does do excellent promos, you know? And so if you can bump up against that, it's easy to throw Bailey at that because you know it's a formula. You know you have two women who are veterans. And at the end of the day, is that where we're going? I don't think so. I think this is solely to put Valkyria over down the road.
okay, yeah, I hope you're right and I'm wrong because yeah, I don't care
Yeah.
to see Bailey and Becky. Bailey did come out on Raw to beat up Becky after being out since before WrestleMania, technically. So I mean that could all just be to support Lyra too, I suppose.
I
But
hope.
she has her own like I got to get back at Becky for this thing. So maybe they just blow it off on Saturday night's main event or something. But yeah, like these two had a very good technical match. It was very interesting. The pacing was really good. Like you said, Becky's great at promo, so it um, put a lot of interest in this match. And part of it, it, there was like a fake stipulation that if Lyra won again, then Becky would never be allowed to challenge for that title while Lyra has it. And then if Lyra or if Becky won, then Lyra would have to raise Becky's hand in victory. And so they played that out. Uh, Becky won. Lyra reluctantly held her hand up, but then she didn't do it well enough or whatever. And then Becky was like, "Put the belt on my waist for me." And like Monday, her promo on Monday was hilarious because she was just talking about like about her arm being hurt or something, and that's why like she couldn't just put the belt on herself and
Oh yeah.
needed Lyra's assistance. Like it was mean of Lyra not to willingly help her. So that's been kind of funny. Uh, so you think that they're gonna keep it going, or are they gonna come back to this? And,
They'll come back to it. If they're smart, they'll have the two vets, Bailey and Becky, kind of carry Lyra forward. But we'll see. Maybe they'll play out a feud between those two and then pivot back to Valkyria. Um, but yeah, it's fun. Becky Lynch is a heel, very fun. I'm fine with it. I it was probably the best match on the show, like you said. Um, and yeah, where that title is on the card, everything couldn't be more perfect for where they're going with it. I don't have any disappointment. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. And as far as the letter grade goes, I'd give this a B plus.
Yep, totally same, same.
Um, After that, we got the men's Money in the Bank match, which, like I'd been saying earlier, I was kind of surprised wasn't the end of the show because they'd been bookending them typically with these matches. Um, I yeah, we both didn't really like this match. I mean, it was fine. Americano had some spots, I guess. Like he took was he the one that took the destroyer or whatever from Andrade when the ladders were like, or was that Penta? Do you know what I'm talking about? There was a spot where a ladder was uh bouncing from the corner of the ring into like the standing in the middle ring, and one of them
Yeah,
did a
I thought
destroyer on him.
Gable. Yeah, I thought Gable took one, and then down the road, Andrade took one from Penta
Oh,
on
that's
the
what it
ladder.
was.
That was yeah.
Yeah.
So, but the issue for me in this match, John, was very noticeable botches and very again. I beginning of the show said I absolutely despise when you have singular spots in a multi talent match. You need to have more act back to one of the very first ladder match highlight on WrestleMania with Edge and Hardy Bros. You had incredible pacing, multiple spots happening, carnage everywhere. Talk about a clinic. It was there and then. With some of these new matches, ladder matches, I should say, they really try to emphasize can we spotlight? And yeah, that's part of the word spot. But to spotlight one thing, it may be fun for camera angle hone in on. But what about the zone in the field of view that is a ladder match? How can you tell me that all these other competitors are just laying on the ground? It really takes away from the believability. And maybe it's because I'm like a cynical fan where I've seen this, I've seen that, and to see a singular spot in a multi-man match is disappointing at this point. How do you feel about that? Is incredible. Let them do it. Let all the other competitors lay. Have two people call up their spot, execute the spot, have the camera angles be fantastic, and move on to the next. Or do you prefer, like I do, multiple scenarios playing out simultaneously, make it feel like there's a real dynamic?
Yeah, well, realistically, they would do both, right? Because, or ideally, they would do
Sure.
both. Like, it would just have, like, mainly the wide shot of all the chaos, but then, like, like, quick, like, go see what's happening there, and then quick cut to that one. Like, there aren't, like,
Yeah.
the quick cuts to other action. It's like, they haven't been doing quick cuts very much in general, which has been relatively, I'd say for the most part it's been good, but in something like this where there is like potential for four different things happening, like they
Yeah.
should do that. But I mean, if they're not going to have the spots, then they're not going to cut to nothing quick. So it makes sense that they're not. Um, I I didn't like the way that like interference happened in this match. I wasn't really a fan of. Like who
Yeah.
somebody
The
came out before.
faction
That's
interference.
what it was, yeah. Because I was gonna say somebody came out before Fatu and Mateo, and that was
Yeah.
Breaker and Bronson Reed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
The
So
dogs were barking. Yep.
yeah, I mean it was bound to happen. I kind of thought that they were gonna maybe make Team Solo like kind of baby facey here. like they were gonna actually stand up to Seth, because that's what they were kind of portraying. It was more so to me like just who's the bigger dog, I guess, than like I'm gonna make sure Seth doesn't blah blah blah. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't really a fan of how they did that, and then I don't know. How do you feel about JC Mateo in general? I guess.
I think he is slow. I don't find him interesting. He's a bowling ball of a between Taz and Rhino.
Yeah.
But there's something off about him, and his execution seems amateurish sometimes. And what I mean by that is I haven't seen enough of him to not say it sometimes, because from what I've seen, I don't find a lot of his execution to be it's sloppy, right? There's something about the man that doesn't feel high energy. You contrast him with Fatu, and it's day and night. Fatu
Yeah.
feels graceful. Fatu feels believable. Fatu feels confident. And Mateo feels like he was called up to be the weaker Tongan or something. You know, the Tongan's a strong one and a forgettable one. Uh, we know that the one who goes, he's memorable because he's actually believable. The other one, you could honestly release him and nothing would change in the WWE universe. Mateo's treading that water for me. He's supposed to be explosive. He's supposed to be a formidable foe. And I didn't get that. Like for real, when we had the call a friend faction moment, when the match finally started picking up and Seth Rollins is calling the dogs in, I was like, well, okay. Fatu is the only person who could stand up. I don't think Mateo is equivalent to Breaker. I don't think Mateo's equivalent to what's his face, Tsunami,
Yeah. Bronson.
Reed.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bronson Reed and Breaker do feel formidable, where only Fatu feels formidable, and Mateo is an afterthought, a little like footnote. So I will say that I, as a critic, was really hard on Andrade because right away in the match he missed a kick. I don't know if you paid attention to his opening flurry combination. His footwork, he did not connect. I forget who he was kicking, but it was so like I was like, wow, that was bad. I saw him lose his footing, very unlike him. Lose his footing on the ropes. I don't know if he was tired or what. I saw him oversell a Mexican destroyer. He had to like be the one to facilitate the rotation because I think Penta didn't have enough elevation on
Yeah.
the ladder to sell it. And but what it made Adrande look like is sloppy. And I felt like the first half of the match was very, very boring. I hate to use the word boring because there was stuff happening, but nothing that I wanted to rant and rave about
Yeah.
here. Um, and then we picked up the pace. We had all the men on the ladder exchanging blows. There was this like exhilarating moment where you had this trade off between people going up, falling down, going up, falling down, and then all the every hammering away. Then the factions got called out. Gable had, if anybody carried the match, it was Chad Gable. And earlier you said that's remarkable because he just did a back to back, a double header, and he still had the energy to carry momentum in the ladders match. So what a workhorse! Holy crap! But if it wasn't for the faction interference, this whole match would have been a snore fest with a predictable ending. Who did you have going into the match to win?
I actually was thinking it was going to be El Grande Americano.
Did
as
you?
yeah, as
That would
as
have been fun.
as ridiculous as it sounds, just because, um, like, I don't know, like to me, half of the people again didn't make sense to win. Like Solo did not make sense to win to me, unless it was because of the help of the bloodline. And then we had Penta, who I think is too new still. Maybe that's not a fair thing. I said that earlier with what's her name? All the women that it got called up ruled them out for that reason too. Um, LA Knight, unfortunately, like I don't, I don't. I'm not gonna say I'm giving up on him, but like there's just they're not pushing him. This was his third Money in the Bank. They always kind of like I don't know. They give off this impression to me that they're like giving him this like good things happen to those who wait kind of talk. But it's been
Yeah.
like 3 years. Um, and Andrade, I didn't realistically see winning it either. Like he's somebody I could see with the briefcase, but not the championship. If that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, like an Austin Theory.
yeah, yeah, he's kind of like in that exactly. And I thought Rollins honestly was too predictable. I really
And
did.
it really was, right? And I was like, well, he's gonna get it because this is where we're going. But I honestly LA Knight, when since you brought it up, he's becoming more and more of a predictable placeholder, which is so unfortunate. Like he should not be delegated to the he's the mid-card jobber, so to speak. He's like, you get lots of organic pop. You're basically Jey Uso before Jey Uso. We're not gonna. How about you just put all these other young cats? Keep doing your thing. We like it. We like it, Dupree.
So, yeah,
Like,
you're selling merch. Dupree.
yeah, for real, dude. I feel bad for the guy because he tell he pours his heart and soul into it, and he gets legitimately upset with himself. I could see it in his eyes when he misses a spot, when he stumbles on that leap to the turnbuckle, when he does anything that detracts from the value of his brand. I could see it in him that he is disappointed, and I think uh, that's rare, and you shouldn't let somebody that driven to build a brand in your company, you shouldn't let them be a jobber. And it's so sad. Why not give him the Money in the Bank case? Really, why not the last 3 years? What harm could it have done? You gave it to Austin Theory, and Austin Theory is in a bromance with somebody longer than, gosh, I mean, I think the bloodline with Fatu wrapped up quicker with his betrayal of Solo, wrapped up quicker than the bromance, Ozzy Down Under, whatever. That whole thing is a wasted talent, and they're doing the same to LA Knight. Unfortunately, they are wasting his talent.
Yeah, and
Um,
he's significantly older than like an Austin Theory too. So it's not like there's this
yeah,
crazy amount of room for him to grow. It's like this for sure is what he is, kind of like how I felt Jey Uso is what he is.
yeah. Here's the ceiling, and we're not going to let you. Yeah, totally. It definitely feels capped. If you don't mind, I wanted to pivot to this weird and uncomfortable new development with Solo Sokoa. He's become like oddly whiny, if that makes sense. He's like, oh, when he cuts promos, he went from being like the enforcer and being like this like tribal werewolf that Fatu is now. He was that. Then he became like a mafia man. And now he's like, oh, yeah, yeah, cutting promos. Have you heard him? No, I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
They've
it.
turned him into like this whiny.
I'm smiling because he didn't watch SmackDown yesterday. He's like mafia guy again.
Oh, of course, of course. See, this is why I have to watch the weekly shows. No, I mean, God, it's so much content, right, John? We had like a triple decked weekend, and then you got to get into these shows that are just incredible. But yeah, so the men's ladder match, Seth Rollins winning, predictable. Half the show, boring. Um, I give it ultimately a solid C. It was completely average through and through, and it would have been a C minus to a D if that other half of the match didn't pick up.
Yeah, I think it went from a C to a C plus for me for Jacob going, "I hate you."
Sure. That was great. Yeah.
They had to
That was fun.
finally pull the trigger on it. And
Yeah.
we'll see if they get Jacob to be a baby face out of this. He's just too like he's spitting the same shit in the middle of the ring all the time on the mic, and like He did that again on SmackDown, just kind of the same shtick, but like he was a little more toned down with it. He's just like, I had to remind him to get in where he fit in instead of I got to remind you. um, so
That's funny.
uh,
He's on some like trazodone or something now.
yeah, he's on yeah. That's interesting. Um, it's
Medicated Fatu.
yeah, he's medicated and Solo's back in the the mafia chair and the the filter with the lighting and slight
With the gloves.
the gloves, yeah. Um so yeah, C plus for me. You said C minus?
Yeah, yeah, C minus.
All right.
No, I said C. It would be a C
Oh yeah,
minus
yeah.
or a D if it didn't pick up. So thoroughly average. I'm sure somebody who this was great, A plus. But if you've seen a lot of ladder matches, it was missing the quintessential essence of the carnage that is expected in a ladder match. I mean, okay, we just had Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens. That ladder match
Yeah.
was possessed quintessential carnage. And that was only 1 versus 1, right? A singles spot. So there's no reason why this match couldn't have been more exciting in general.
Yeah. I guess one last thing with that ladder match, they brought out the fireball ladder or whatever.
Oh,
Um
oh yeah, they turned the ladder into a
so
commercial.
yeah, I think they said that that's actually the tallest ladder they've ever had in one of these matches, which is pretty intense. I mean, they didn't utilize somebody going off the very tippy top of it. And then I don't recall if anything happened on Raw that had like a table or a ladder or anything, but yesterday on SmackDown there was a Slim Jim table. Um,
Of
I
course.
mean, it was a regular table just with the Slim Jim logo on it. It kind of would have been funnier if it was Slim Jim colors at least. But they on SmackDown they didn't have the ads in the ring though, so I didn't like complain that much. I mean, it's just a sticker on a table ultimately, but I don't know if that's the pivot they're doing or if they're gonna be doing both and they just didn't have ads for SmackDown for some reason this week.
And I'm curious how that works, like bidding wise. Do they just bid out the spots like it's a NASCAR
I,
vehicle where
it's
they
got
go,
to
you
be.
get X amount of time? So this is a good segue because I wanted to highlight the commentary team for the men's ladder match. I texted you and said, man, they are unhinged. They were talking like men's nipples at one point, and they
Oh,
were like forcibly, yeah, and they had to like force a a plug for Fireball, and they said the cheesiest stuff. And I just want to say for those of you who watched Gunther versus Uso on Raw after Money in the Bank, contrast the commentary with that, where you have the commentary team fully engaged and providing the soundtrack to the in-ring action. The men's ladder match was a disaster commentary wise. And I have to say, John, there are times I don't like McAfee because he doesn't feel authentic in his interest of the match. He sometimes feels aloof, and he feels generic, and he feels cliche and over the top. He does have moments where he's beautiful. He balances Cole's demeanor with his whimsical, fervor.
yeah.
But men's ladder match, you know who shined the most? Wade Barrett. Out of all three of them, I felt like Barrett carried the commentary team, and that says a lot.
Yeah. And was it during the men's or the women's match? I don't know if you picked up on this, but Wade, he was one of the first people I've ever heard explain why they climb the ladder so slow. Um,
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't pick up on that.
yeah, he just was like, "Oh, they're just out there perspiring everywhere," and just like it's just like in the heat of the moment, your hands, you're nervous, you're sweaty. It's like, yeah, okay, all right. Like nobody's ever said anything about it. They're just like, oh, it's just wrestling lore that as soon as you climb a ladder, you don't know how fast you are anymore. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so I wanted to bring that up. I completely forgot about it, but then yeah, since you brought up Wade shining in that match, I mean, he did shine, but he was also the nipple person. Like,
He was, yeah.
because just to give context, that's how he was like trying to prove that El Grande Americano wasn't Chad Gable's, the different
That's
nipples.
right.
So I thought it was funny, but I know, like, I know what you're saying. Like, it just didn't feel like uh official or big or like a big deal. It seemed like more like a clown show than.
It did, yeah. It felt like the commentary team was understanding that the pace of the match wasn't exciting enough, so they had to provide commentary that distracted from the lack of excitement.
Yeah.
And when you get so the beauty and the articulation of the commentary team when it hits the nail on the head, they provide the soundtrack to the art in the ring. And you will see the synergy played out in a match like Gunther versus Jey Uso. And if you don't mind, when we finish up Money in the Bank, I do want to, like, unless you had things in mind, with touching on that match because it was one of the best matches 2025 that they've produced. I will say that that match was better than the whole card of WrestleMania.
Yeah, actually, because yeah, we even thought the Raw after WrestleMania was better than WrestleMania, and this
Yeah.
was a better Raw than that Raw. So yeah, um, I guess just as far as this show goes, there's only one other match, and um, we can. I think we can kind of talk about these things simultaneously. The part of the part of the result of this match was caused by returning our truth,
Right.
and there was a whole. Uh, should we just talk about our truth right now, or
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that's the next big thing. What's going on? Because I am willing to say on air that I thought the last match, John Cena, and what they're doing with his retirement tour, is boring. It is boring. It was fun at first to see him come out in this laced persona, but now I'm just like, oh, okay, so you're feeding him. Okay, now you're feeding him. And now you are talking down to the fan. Get it. But to have this like we did with Cody Rhodes, The Rock and Roman Reigns, the unpredictability of the WWE universe changing the trajectory of where we're going, that is the headline. Ron Killings in our truth to have that little return and get his payback, get his receipt for John Cena after Saturday night's main event and after released, call it a work or not, it doesn't matter. The storytelling involved, organic or not, just like Cody Rhodes, is great.
yeah, and it shows that they listen. Um, More than you would think. Anyway, it seems like some
Sure.
things are tone deaf in some ways, but um,
Yeah.
I mean, for this, it was bizarre from the get go because like it obviously was a gimmick shirt, but like the Ron Cena shirt was one of the top selling things on their website, and they're all about bottom lines. And I can't imagine our truth was like a heavy veteran salary for them, to come out and tell some jokes here and there. So
Yeah.
it just seemed like tone deaf that they would have released him because like it's somebody that like fans clearly love whenever he shows up, and he's probably a great locker room guy, like just for
I'd
younger
imagine.
talent, like a mentor type of figure. And if if you're gonna let that guy go, like why would anyone feel safe, like, oh, I make more than this guy and maybe do less, why, is my job not safe now? So I think part of it was damage control in that regard too. Is just like hey, like, yeah, we messed this one up, guys. But at the press conference immediately following the show, Triple H didn't he didn't lie, but he didn't tell the truth. Like, somebody
Yeah,
asked him a question about it, and he's like, "Oh, you enjoyed the show? Yeah, yeah." Um, Whatever that meant. So he comes back in returning. Uh, well, like you said, it was a receipt to John Cena for getting humiliated by him and everything. Um, I I don't know. Like, the actual match, I don't really think had it too much to really mention, to be honest. Just the fact that Cena ultimately was the one getting pinned in this by Cody, so they might use that as like
yeah,
a how we get Cody back in the picture kind of thing. They're gonna use the King of the Ring for that too. They had
yeah.
Cody win a qualifying match yesterday for it. Um, but yeah, like, even during the match, you could hear some "We Want Truth" chants. Um,
That's right.
and there was a little bit of that before the show. And I was telling you on text, like, I was watching Worlds Collide on YouTube, and they had the live chat going, and it was like 90% "We Want Truth" just spammed in the entire chat. Um, so I'm sure they made this decision before Worlds Collide to bring him back. But if they didn't and they just like flew him out because of that, that would be pretty wild.
So last minute. Yeah. And it's very similar to Cody, like I said, but to your point about the match being somewhat forgettable, I felt like most of it was, oh, Cody needs to get tagged in. He's so fired up. He's ready. He's full of energy. He needs to rip and roar. And like that was the whole draw. That was the draw. That was the only thing they were really pushing that whole match until Truth came out. And that was the big twist. And now I got to ask you, where do we sit with Truth turning into a semi-serious competitor? Are they really going to have him play a big role in the retirement of Cena, or is this a bump in the um, eventual reality of Rhodes taking back the championship?
So on SmackDown yesterday,
God damn it, John!
Truth jumped John Cena. Um,
Okay, okay,
After Cena had interacted with Cody, Randy, and LA Knight. It was like one of those, like, Cena came out to start the show, and then Cody came out to respond to him, and they had their back and forth for a bit. It was pretty good, actually. And then,
nice.
like, it led into the match that was going to start the show, which had LA Knight and Randy in it, for the King of the Ring qualifying thing. It was,
Randy won, right?
yes, Randy won that.
Okay.
Um, and Cody won his later in the night. But something I noticed this time around, so they put up the brackets, to show where they are, and the semifinals. It's going to be both of the matches are going to be on SmackDown, and they're going to be one Raw versus one SmackDown in both of them. Um,
Okay.
so to me, that looks like they're doing that so they can put potentially Randy and Cody in the King of the Ring match itself. Because otherwise, like how they'd been doing it before, is like the SmackDown side would face off, and then the Raw side, and then the champion of
That's
each of
right.
those would win or go. So yeah, there's no way to do Randy versus Cody for that unless you stagger it like this. So that's what it looks like they're doing. Going back to Truth. So yeah, he jumped John Cena. Um, there was two different times you see John Cena backstage during SmackDown, also, like, which was
Okay.
hasn't been happening. Like, he's kind of just been like, "I'm here to cut a promo, and then I'm taking the jet out, guys." It's what it came off as, but he was there the whole time this show because he bookended the show almost. Because he was looking for Truth, and the first time you see him backstage, you don't hear any audio, but you just see him like turning his hat backwards and getting pissed at Aldis, and just like yelling at him, like, "Where's this guy?" Yeah. Um, and then the second time you see him, he walks up to Jim Uso and he's like, "I know you're close with this guy. Tell him to meet me in the ring." So then Cena goes back out to the ring for a second time. Um,
Big Jim.
and instead of R-Truth meeting him, CM Punk meets him. And
Of course.
so they got more CM Punk, uh, John Cena back and forth, and it really is more interesting after watching SmackDown. So I think you'll like the direction of that a little bit more. Maybe not the whole Cena retirement tour, but uh, anyway. So yeah, after Cena and Punk are squaring off on the mic, Cena leaves, or sorry, Punk leaves, and then Killings jumps him again, and they uh Nick Aldis sets up a match for next week. So
Yeah.
he's still in there with the Cena stuff. I don't know how long. I thought like Truth's thing was going to be more of an identity crisis than it is, even though he cut his hair.
Right.
Like I- the identity crisis is almost more with the commentary because they can't decide if he's R-Truth or Ron Killings. Like just talking the whole time. It's like me and you. It'd be like, I'd be calling Randy Orton 5 times in a row, and then the next time I call him the Viper,
Oh,
or
sure,
whatever.
sure.
You know what I mean?
They're synonymous, right? They're synonymous. How do you communicate the identity of R-Truth, Ron Killings?
Yeah. So I don't know if that's intentional or not. Like, because it could be. It would make sense to be, but it also could be like, which one are we calling him again? Like, they really. I don't know.
So I feel like R-Truth, Ron Killings injects a very healthy amount of unpredictable Johnson farewell. And I like it. I like it. In fact, I always thought to myself that R-Truth, as a competitor and as a talent, and even as a spirit, he's always put a smile on my face because he's either lighthearted or fun. And to see him kind of grasp at his real deep rooted wrestling experience. I mean, this guy has years and years and years of ring wear under his belt. So for him to come back out and be like, I'm tired of being disrespected, it's very believable. It's
Yeah.
it's so believable that it feels personable and personal. Because it reminds me of Rhodes when he did lose, as far as we know, he lost his direction because the board said, no, 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 this is what we're doing, kid. Step aside. So this is wonderful because I feel like we've been on this John Cena path where they go, this is what pay attention. But the fans are like, nah, 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 nah. We want Ron Killings. And I love it. That's the beauty of professional wrestling. That's when the marks have a voice. That's when things become most interesting. When you don't have to plan ahead, you can let the fans take the wheel for a little bit and you get to play off feedback loop.
Yeah. It is nice that they have some element of that, and like AEW, it's kind of all that. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
isn't that the art though? Like to draw heat, you have to play the crowd. Isn't that really what professional wrestling is all about when it boils down to the narrative and the myth? So like you can't forget that. You can't TKO is going to run into issues if they can curate and manufacture everything, even down to that latter being an advertisement. They need to realize that professional wrestling, the beauty and the gift of the sport as a form of entertainment, is the fact that the fans can change the direction of the creative development.
for sure. And so bringing that all back to the uh, actual show we had, he ended up coming out and screwing over John Cena in the middle of the tag team match. Came out, in head to toe hoodie and a mask, so people didn't know who it was. I I can't remember who I thought it was, but I thought it was somebody else. I don't. And then as soon as he took off the mask, it's like, oh, okay. I don't know who I thought it was, but I thought it was it is dumb, but I thought it was Javon Evans. His name is. He's this NXT guy. Um,
Okay.
Earlier in the day, he was in a fatal four way for the NXT North American Championship, and they just kind
Oh,
of have a similar build. That's like the gist of it. And I thought our truth was gone, so I didn't even have him in mind as somebody.
I thought it was Carlito.
Yeah, that
No.
would have been funny.
See, that's the difference, right, John? That's the difference. Carlito did steal time. He was not of any value. But our truth does put butts in seats. Like at the end of the day, I laugh. If our truth has anything else to give, it's, or nothing else to give, he's going to give you humor.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he's definitely of value. He's not like a in the background, unnecessary. He's not a prop. And I thought it was great to hear Ron Killings be like, "I am not just a gimmick." But it's like, so roll with it. But yeah, you're not a gimmick. That's funny you say that you didn't really know who it was. I unfortunately had like some news feeds spoil parts of it because I
Mhm.
was on delay. So I didn't get that when he came into the ring with the hoodie. And that stinks. In this new age of social media, you got to be careful. You can really ruin a lot of good.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So yeah, he helps the outcome of this match of Cena and Logan Paul versus Jey Uso and Cody Rhodes. Uh, I don't know if there's truth to this, but I saw somewhere that originally this match was supposed to be John Cena and Travis Scott. Like Travis Scott had been
Mm,
apparently like doing some sort of trainings and stuff. Like he wanted to like do a match, I guess, but I don't know if either he just gave up on it because who cares, or he had some sort of rock scheduling conflict type of deal.
sure.
But so that would have made more sense, I think, than Logan Paul, just because I don't really know why Logan Paul was involved with this at all, other than like he was a opponent of Jey Uso and he's a heel and he's
And he's a
uh,
tool to ruin wrestling, as John
yeah,
Cena
that's
said.
that's what it was. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he
Yeah.
did say that, so there was something to it, but
So it'd be really good, John, to see Travis Scott be a barrier for Ron Killings' debut to like slay Travis Scott to get to Cena. That would be really funny. And have it be a squash match. Just have Ron Killings get like, I don't know, a minute or two, hit him with a few finishers, end it, move on to Cena. But I really wanted to touch it because I think like this is the highlight of my life when Gunther is the reigning champion, John. My life is complete.
should we give
Uh,
that match a grade quick?
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna give that match. Uh, so I don't consider Ron Killing's reveal or receipt part of my grade,
Sure.
if that makes sense. It's like a promo after the fact or something. But I will say I give it a C minus.
Yeah, yeah, I'm there with you. C minus. The truth thing, like if the match had more like stakes to it, I guess, and truth was the reason that Cena got screwed out of something that mattered, that probably would have bumped it up for me. But it just, yeah, it didn't really matter other than getting truth back. Like it didn't matter for this match. Um,
Right.
yeah. So, anyways, I interrupted you. Go back to your Gunther.
Oh yeah, my love fest.
Yeah,
No, so I thought Gunther's title run was prematurely ended. I thought it was, as I've been saying, the new Mark taking over, and Jey Uso had to have because of merch and the momentum he had built around the Yeet movement. But at the end of the day, Gunther is probably a generational talent. I don't think we're going to get too many Gunthers. Like, we don't get too Undertaker, Calloway. So to have him on a Monday Night Raw take his title back clean was totally reinvigorated. John, I was feeling kind of down about WWE as a product with John Cena and everything, and all the marketing and all the corporate interference, and with the organic Ron Killings movement, and with Triple H, I'm assuming, making the call to be like, yeah, let's have Gunther take the title back. It totally reinvigorated me. I was so happy. That match was a beautiful match. It gave me King of the Ring vibes with Randy Orton versus Gunther. The trade-off, the clean finish, to have a sleeper hold, become the main, what would the word be? The magic. It was the magic move that drew you in to the narrative. To do that with a sleeper, it takes a real special talent to make that believable, because what a boring move. It's a sleeper. How do you do that? How do you sell that? How do you make that gripping? They did it. I don't know if you feel the same, but that match was a solid A. I would say if you threw that match on any other PLE, it could have been a main event.
Yeah, and it should have been. Yeah, about what was I gonna say? There was something I was gonna mention with well, I guess just with it coming off of Money in the Bank and this match happening on Raw, I kind of thought they were gearing up for a cash in. So I'm glad they didn't go that route. Um, and this is kind of a loose connection here, but another thing from unfortunately the show you did not see yesterday. Cena,
Yeah, full disclosure.
Cena, um, he gave an explanation about why Seth Rollins is not going to cash in on him, and I actually loved it. Because he was saying like Seth Rollins wants me to leave with this belt, and then he can swoop in and take the only belt that's remaining. And I was like, yeah, I get it. You're not leaving with that thing, but you're gonna tell the story like that's what's going on. But that's it's totally believable because that's kind of Seth's whole thing is he wants like a hold of like everything to be in his control. And I mean, if he's holding the power to get the only championship that exists, or like main championship that exists, then that that would play out very well. So I was glad that they didn't do the cash in so quick. I don't want to drag on like some of these have been, but last year we had the same night one. So they couldn't do that again. And plus, like this is gonna be Seth's character for however long now. Just him
It
carrying
would
this thing
really
around.
spoil it.
Yeah. So they got the title back on Gunther. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say for once. I usually don't. So the sleeper hold thing. So
Oh, sure.
the only other person that I've seen really entice me with that is Samoa Joe. Um,
Oh, yeah, because that was his whole shtick, right?
yeah, and he's just like a round big guy, so like him jumping on you and then like taking you down real quick and like yeah, and he'd have the look in his eyes, and just like seething basically and his face turning red. And so yeah, that other than those two, yeah, who cares about a sleeper hold? So that's why it was especially annoying too with Jay winning with it, but we covered that ad nauseum.
The psychology, John. The psychology in a Gunther match. Unprecedented.
Definitely. He is a master at his art, like you said. And yes, this was a match on a Raw that, I mean, any other time this would be a PLE match. So the fans got something good. it kind of plays into like I had this theory before SmackDown or sorry, before Raw debuted on Netflix that they might like do some bigger things just on a Raw because it's on a streaming platform and
Go
they
for it.
just yeah they want the eyes. So it I like that they're doing stuff like that. Especially like Money in the Bank only had 4 matches and then they added this Dominic and Octagon match the same day. Um, so yeah, it was just the card for Money in the Bank was just kind of lacking in actual the amount of matches, but I don't know if that would have made it any better if they added Gunther and Jay to that. Like it kind of just would have been too long of an event, I think, at that point to have like
Right.
another 30-minute match or whatever. But um is there anything else from Raw that stood out to you? I know you didn't watch SmackDown, so we don't really have to cover that right now.
You know, I mean, I have no complaints about where we are with the field of the card, like where we are with the women's division, the mid card, everything. It's doing exactly what I want it to do. I Jay Uso was the only thing out of place for me. I want to see where we go with Seth Rollins, CM Punk stepping to Cena. It's just filler, but if they do it with the killings angle too, it might become more than just filler. Um,
It's more than
but
filler
yeah,
with what happened last night. I'll just say
okay.
that.
Good, good. I mean, that's what it should be. I know a lot of long fans. Did you know CM Punk had a thing against going to Saudi Arabia when he was with WWE previously? And so that was a little not long term wrestling fans for John Cena to be like, you're going to follow me to the place you hate.
Yeah.
And so people are like, whoa. But yeah, I, I'm fine with everything going forward. I have to watch SmackDown. Thank you for sharing some of the big highlights. I don't mind. Uh, when it comes to weekly shows, unless it's like something really big, I don't spoiled. I'll like verbalize or tell you like, hey man, don't share that. But I wanted to know some of these things since we're airing it on the broadcast here. But for me, I am interested to see how they book Gunther for this second title run. His first title run didn't sit well with me. And let's bring back the Intercontinental Champion Gunther. And hell, I even want to see Ludwig Kaiser come out of the shadows and be like, you know what? I'm now coming after you. I don't know how you get Kaiser there, but he has potential. Him and Finn Balor both need to eat more because they look like they have eating disorders. But beyond that, he could be a big competitor. And it never sat well with faded Imperium into the background, the way they treated Giovanni. I mean, man, they brought him back only to release him after a squash match. It was really brutal. And I want them to tie that up with Gunther. And then I hate to say it. I know we shouldn't say it. Bill Goldberg, he's gonna make an appearance. But you don't have to. We don't have to bring up Voldemort again. We won't.
No, that's fine. I mean, he like I just he doesn't need to have a title match, you know? Like
Yes, he does. He
there
obviously does. How do you make him interesting?
you don't, so why ruin other things?
True, true. Good point.
But yeah, so the rumor is like next month Saturday night's main event is in Georgia, so they think
Mm,
that'll be when the match would happen. So look out for Billy G coming up after Saudi. Um,
yeah, I mean,
yeah. Trying to think. I guess. mm, So, do you think at the end of the day, I guess we can kind of close with this. Do you think that the R Truth thing, like, is this gonna push him beyond like being a part of the Cena retirement, or do you think this is just that?
A really good point. Is this a farewell tour for both gentlemen? That's a really good point
That's good.
because,
Yeah,
like, Ron Killings, to me, I thought that Saturday night main event was like his his big moment, right? In his career. Like, you get to be part of saying goodbye to John Cena, which is sad, right? You don't want that to be your memorabilia. But ultimately, yeah, the merch sold well. Ron and John, they have a thing. How else do you book Ron outside of his feud with Cena without being the joke he is
yeah.
in general?
I don't know, because I mean, he had like a harsher side to him when he was wrestling in TNA in like the mid two
Yeah,
thousands. Um, like he's just been around so long. Like he could pull from that, I guess. But I just I don't know. Like even if he does that, does that put him with like Shinsuke then, where he's just kind of floundering? Like, uh,
right. And do you bring back another title? Like, most fans remember our truth from the 24/7 title run, right? Like, if you look up WWE viral moments and you type in our truth, his biggest highlights are from that era. That
yeah,
was when he had the most airtime, which is funny because, like, I feel like those matches were so short. So did he have a lot of airtime? But they were bigger moments for his career. Could that be a potential kind of side narrative after Cena goes? Could our truth facilitate the reemergence of a 24/7 title or a hardcore title? Could he become a serious competitor without just being a comedian? To be determined. Ultimately, what it boils down to is Ron differentiating himself from John, from the move set to the gimmick, and becoming a serious person in the ring that means more than uh, being a tangent on somebody else's.
I kind of wonder if they maybe give him like CM Punk's moveset or something like a nemesis of Cena's moveset to like
Sure,
try and beat
that'd be
him.
interesting.
But I can't think of who else would make sense for that. Like whose moveset. Um, but yeah, is there anything else you wanted to cover here before we get going for the day?
Um, no, I will say that I'm happy, really happy as a viewer recently. Like, I'm looking forward to weekly shows. I think 2 weeks ago I texted you. I said, I got to be honest, skimming a lot. I'm not looking forward to watching things live in the moment. I'm skimming. I'm looking at news articles. But now I'm slowly getting drawn back into not just skimming, but watching when it happens. And I'm interested in the trajectory of things. I actually think the PLEs going forward could be great because everything post Mania, meh, and the weekly show with Raw really injected some enthusiasm, much needed, because I lost a little bit of steam as a fan. And I've been listening to other. I kind of trade some of the and some of the tabloids. Uh, there's so many rumors out there from The Rock and Triple H feuding and Triple H being pushed out, and you never know what to believe. And that's a big factor behind Ron Killings. There's still a subsection of fans that believe it's work. So I just wanted to wrap up the show with like getting your from all my uh investigations. I'd say it was not a work. They're spinning it, and this is exactly Cody Rhodes going into that other WrestleMania.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It was not a work, and like I've been saying for a little bit now that the new kayfabe is pretending something is kayfabe. Um,
Sure.
so that's another example of that here, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, the next show coming up will be what now? The King and Queen. what do they call it? Night of Champions. Night of
Yeah.
Champions in Saudi
Yeah,
Arabia.
Night of Champions.
We'll
Yep.
see if
Yep.
Bill Goldberg gets a private jet over, and that's how he ignites his Gunther feud. No, but um, yeah,
Gonna be in Georgia.
it's gonna be so that yeah, that's gonna be in a couple weeks here. We'll have the finale of the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments. Um, so that'll be good, hopefully, and then yeah, more just regular weekly stuff, and we'll maybe talk about Goldberg in a month.
Yeah. The bane of John's existence, Bill Goldberg.
Well, happy Father's Day to the dads out there, and we will see
Oh
everybody
yeah.
soon.
Deuces.